Hello there, welcome to the World Coffee Innovation Summit. I'm Dan, your host for this live session, and this is the first live session in a series where we're looking at how to verify sustainability claims with GeoAI. Now, this year's theme at the summit is all about building shared prosperity through ecosystem collaboration. And one of the most important parts of that conversation is how we protect the landscapes that coffee and cocoa and other commodities depend on. Now, this morning at the summit, Planet and Picterra took to the stage to show how satellite imagery and AI are transforming these supply chains, from precise plantation monitoring and legal compliance to accurate carbon footprint estimation. Now, we're picking that conversation up here at the Picterra and Planet booth to go a little bit deeper. Now, you might have seen our teaser at the start of this live, or indeed on our LinkedIn channel, asking how can supply chains get ahead of deforestation before the damage is done? So let's find out. I'm joined by Dr. Flávia Mendes from Planet and Dr. Frank de Morsier from Picterra. Please, if you could introduce yourselves very briefly. Flávia.
Yes. Hi, Dan. I'm very excited to be here with Frank and Dan. And so, hello everyone, I'm Flávia. I am a senior program manager for land use at Planet, and we are helping people to solve their problems in the farm, but also finding solutions to better manage their land in a sustainable way, using very high spatial resolution and nearly daily image. And I'm very happy to be here with Frank and Dan, because that's where I think we see the real value of the data, right? When we have like Picterra giving some very valuable insights for farmers and companies who are looking at the management of their lands.
Fantastic, thanks Flávia. Frank.
Yeah, very happy to be here too with Flávia and with you, Dan. I'm Frank de Morsier, so this Chief Operating Officer at Picterra and one of the co-founders. And yeah, in my role, I'm going along the large organizations that are using our technology and really trying to unlock with them the hard evidences they need on the environmental footprint they may have, but also looking ahead on all the environmental elements that will be influencing their supply chain and their operation generally. And so yeah, very glad to be here at this event where we have heard a lot about already resiliency, traceability, and all these needs that can really now be impacted in a very good way by technologies like Planet, I mean, this constellation of satellites, and GeoAI, that now we are at this turning point.
Great, thank you both, welcome. Now, before we go any further with the session, both of you presented earlier today at the summit, and it was just before lunch, so you may hear some lunch being put out in the background, which we're eagerly awaiting. Could you give us a short recap of the presentation that you both made here at the summit, for those that missed it?
So the starting point on that was really to show a little bit the evolution on the global mapping that was performed by satellites now for more than 40 years. And to see this evolution, I mean, this has shaped, as I was saying, a lot of public awareness, has shaped regulations. And now, in order to really unlock this traceability aspect on the supply chain, this understanding really of the supply chain, we really need the latest generation of satellites actually to do that. So it's much higher resolution, a much higher frequency of revisit. And with this, then you can really move from this global mapping that has been very useful so far to the supply chain level. And when we talk about this, it's really the plot farm level. You really need to have these individual plots mapped.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting because, as Frank said, I think these global maps, they really give you a good sense of what is happening around, right? But for example, there is a big challenge that I think that we are all facing. It's with the mapping of the agroforest systems, right? It's all trees when you see from above. So when you don't have this very high resolution capability and also almost daily visiting, it's very hard to differentiate, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges when we think about mapping the commodities in UDR, because we have the tree crop commodities and the natural forest, and also the planted forest, right? So how to differentiate that? But I think going beyond the mapping of the coffee plantation and other kind of true crop commodities, I think what we also brought into this presentation that we can also go a little bit beyond. So we need to understand the farm in total, right? To map all the assets. So from being compliant with some regulations to assessing the financial risks, either for big operations, but also for small farmers, to understand the resilience of the plantation, for example, if it's too dry, if there's any kind of disease, but also going beyond and understand the nature assets that they have in their own land, the biodiversity assets that they also have in the land, right? So for example, how much carbon you have stocked in that area, how is the resilience, for example, when you can understand a little bit about the structure of the forest. So at Planet, for example, we produce a global data set that gives information on the canopy, the canopy cover, and the canopy height, and the carbon density. And these are very key informations and assets for you to understand the resilience of the farm, either for the croplands, but also for the forests. And I think this all affected, right? We are having a climate change right now. We also show in the presentation that 25% of the Arabica coffee area in Brazil, for example, is going to suffer from climate change by 2050. So we need to understand the resilience, but not only understand the financial risk, but going towards the opportunity also that the farmer can have, and also the companies. When we have assets like data as the carbon, for example, storage, the carbon density, farmers and company can really understand how they could benefit from this kind of forest areas that they have in their own land, right, in their own farm. So giving an opportunity to have another kind of financial background, or let's say a financial incentive, principally when these hard times come, right? When you have, like, for example, a very dry season, a very completely crazy year that we sometimes have this big phenomena, El Niño, La Niña, going each sum of years, depending on the conditions that we have. And so giving an opportunity also from benefit of preserving the forest, so mapping the coffee plantations, checking the compliance, managing the financial risks, and also understanding the benefits of this land, not only for the resilience, the microclimate, but also how they could benefit from this result-based payment, for example, or even the carbon markets.
Yeah, and on that topic of preserving the forest and looking kind of a bit more closely at deforestation monitoring, why are so many companies still discovering issues only after the forest is gone, the damage is done?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, because as Frank mentioned, we have a huge, very good base mature research that was done by many scientists over the last decades, with very important satellite programs that we have wideward. And this really helped us to have a very good foundation, right? But with the new challenges that we are having, I mean, we can see the frequency of this kind of crazy events that we are having, the weather events. Now we were having, for example, every 10 years, we're going to have a big drought. And now we have almost every 2 years. So this frequency, like the climate change, is really forcing us to require not better technology, but let's say a technology that can cover all this frequency of the changes that we are having in the landscape, right? So, for example, for many years, and I think nowadays many of the data that we have available, they are yearly based, no? So if of course, it's important for you to understand that that land was deforested a year ago. But I think we need to come from being more reactive to be really proactive, to map something in a higher frequency, because we know that the same way that the technology involves, also the environmental crimes involves, because people know that we have satellites passing, right? So every year we have a mapping and everything. And also people know that sometimes the media and the low resolution cannot really cover the type of the deforestation. Now, before we have a lot of deforestation, nowadays we have a lot of degradation. So we have a lot of the selective loggings, for example, that it's a common practice right now. So you really need this high resolution data to get this selective logging, but also the frequency, because then these things evolves very quick. So I think that's what the kind of technology that we need. The data and the GeoAI, for example, providing these insights, right? Because with the high frequency, the temporal frequency, but also the high resolution data together with the insights of the GeoAI can give, we can better inform people to don't only be reactive, but more proactive, to really monitor. And before the damage is gone, you can go there and do something.
No, exactly. You want to pinpoint very quickly to where things are starting. And it's anyway very much more fragmented now, where you will find small deforestation. The big centers of deforestation, we can say it like that, they have been identified now through time. So it's really now this challenge of going to the fragmented pieces of the farms and seeing early signs of this.
And there is something very interesting actually, because we're talking about deforestation, but degradation is playing a big role. I think there was a study, I don't remember now the author, but maybe we can leave after the link for the people who are watching us to check. But I think there was a study showing that now 50% of the CO2 release in the Amazon is not only due to deforestation, but also to degradation. Because when you look at with the satellites, maybe like low and medium resolution, you see that everything is kind of green. Like, okay, we have a very good dense forest here, more or less. But when you go with the detail, with the spatial resolution, the temporal resolution, and when you get, for example, the GeoAI to get these insights of maybe using high data, carbon data, you can really see that forest damage. They don't have the same resilience. They don't have the same capacity to store.
Not all equal. Yeah, this forest. No, that's crazy to see this loss of carbon. Yeah.
So in that shift from being simply purely reactive to preventing this loss, what does proactive monitoring actually look like in practice on the ground or using this technology?
I mean, the moment you will see a starting point, for instance, of deforestation, directly there could be an action made on the ground. And so someone could be checking what's happening. Okay, it's an isolated thing. No, there's really degradation going on here. We need to compensate that, to correct that, to mitigate this. While before you would rather say, okay, this has to be just excluded from the supply.
And then speaking of supply, many companies still treat compliance as this box-ticking exercise. So how can this approach change that sort of dynamic that they have?
I think we're at a point where regulation and actually sustainability really in itself and when you talk about resilience, security of supply are meeting. So indeed, people have to check boxes from a compliance regulation side. But now for everyone, it's very clear that their supply chains are at risk. And if we look just at the global economy, it's more than half of it that relies on nature. And I think this is really the lowest kind of a picture we can say on this. It's much more than that in reality. But already that gives a feeling that we are so much relying on this, and we are only going into more problematic times with dynamic getting really more crazy with peaks, changes. So everyone is aware that when you have a supply chain relying on the environment, you really have to build resilience for the future. And so that's where they really see now the advantage of getting information, not just for tick boxing, but really now learning how to make this really resilient and being sure to secure supply. And that's where I think we are really entering sustainability.
Yeah, and I think also just to pinpoint, because I think what I have heard a lot around the UDR, there are a lot of farmers who are afraid, right? Because when you have your plot of land, I don't know, mapped, many of them, what's what I heard so far, that are afraid of being regulated by government and so on. So going really beyond to show that, as Frank said, we can definitely be compliant with some regulations, but showing them the benefits of also managing their own land, understanding the assets, understanding all the kind of nature assets that they have, understanding the health of the soil, understanding the health of the plantation, the health of the forest, for example, and then showing them also an opportunity to be inside of, for example, the carbon markets. So it's really passing through the compliance, but not only self-impunity, but also a risk management, a better risk management, let's say less financial loss, and principally the benefits of having the management in their own hands, helping them to understand about when is the best time to harvest, when is the best time to go to this field appropriately because there is a disease which is we can see that affecting the carbon stock or the height or the canopy cover. So I think this is very powerful, right? To give this kind of data in a very easy way, manageable way, using, for example, the GeoAI and translating that to what the farm needs, you know. And I think that's very important because sometimes I think we think about, oh, like, let's make a solution for that. But I think what you are doing at Picterra, it's very interesting that you go to the farmers, you go to the smallholders, you understand the problem, and then you are creating the solution. Because sometimes we have this idea, no, I have this satellite image, this whatever, add value for this problem. But sometimes it's not the problem that the farmer is looking for. And also I think that's the great thing, this relationship that you create, really understanding the problem, going to the point of the problem, not helping them only to fulfill compliance, but having the power in their hands that they can manage better their fields, and also having some benefit from it.
Yeah, my next point was going to be around, once companies have this visibility, what can they do next with it? And that's something we're going to explore in some of the future live sessions that we have in the coming weeks. So kind of moving on, maybe some more specific questions. How fast can deforestation alerts be generated, after an event has occurred? We're talking about near real-time satellite imagery from Planet. So how fast can you actually action these types of events?
We'll not say there's no limit to this, but I mean, now knowing that the planet is imaged every day, this gives you the reactivity. So every day you could have new alerts actually. So that's this shift towards really, you can say near real time, but you can say also continuous monitoring. I think that's very true.
And I think also it's true, like near daily, we have, of course, the power from the satellite indeed, with the high resolution, the high frequency, but also we should not forget about the AI, right? Because like 15 years ago, I remember when I did my PhD, I needed to process each image like once per one. We didn't have this all AI tools, like this crazy cloud computing that we have, this crazy computer like unit process that we can have in our own hands, right? To kind of make it easier. So I think the daily detection of the deforestation or degradation, it's because of the high resolution image, the high frequency, but also because of the new AI capabilities, right? That we have nowadays, that we can detect indeed with the GeoAI, for example, giving insights. And almost every day when you have a new image, you just run something very quick using your AI model, and then you can at least understand like the first actions or the first pinpoints of this, where we are having some changes, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're coming to the end of our session. So thank you, Flávia. Thank you, Frank. Are there any closing comments that you'd like to add?
I'm very happy to also be there with the coffee sector and to dig. It's always interesting to dig with a specific supply chain to understand where there is actually more the need, traceability or the resilience, and how do these actors play together. So I think that will really be the interesting part of these 2 days.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very fun to talk to Frank and also you, Dan. I think that's it, and I think what I'm getting a lot from this conference, that we really should look at this whole, let's say, context, right? Understanding the compliance issues, risk, financial, but also the benefits, right? So we really need to close the value chain and understand all the value that satellite almost daily satellite data, high frequency, high resolution, together with AI can really give us benefits to farmers, financial corporations, smallholders, governments also, who are looking for a better and a more sustainable management of their own lands.
Fantastic, thank you. So we're coming to a close. If you'd like to explore how this kind of approach, everything that we've talked about today, can really strengthen your own sustainability strategy, we're offering a free consultation session to map out your verification roadmap. Now, hopefully I get this right. There should be a little QR code that appears, I think, above my head. So if you're on a desktop device, you can scan that with your mobile device and fill out a short form. Or if you're already on a mobile device, just type consultation into the comments, into the chat of the event, and we'll reach out to you. So all that remains is to say a big thank you to Flávia, big thank you to Frank as well, to everyone here at the summit who's come to visit us, and for everyone watching online. Thank you, and watch out for the next live session soon. Bye for now.